and this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and does not constitute financial advice. Please consult with a qualified financial professional for advice specific to your situation. The views and opinions expressed are those of the hosts and guests and do not necessarily reflect those of the podcast producers or sponsors. We make no representations or warranties regarding the accuracy or completeness of the content. Hi, my name is Bella Carrasco, and helping others feel more comfortable about investing brings a huge smile to my face. I pull together my resources to interview experts in each area of the due diligence process and answer how do you know questions when considering your future financial safety. But that wasn't enough for me. As an ex-collegiate soccer player, I know the parallels that athletes have with everyone else. That is, the fact that we all have several identities and the capability to add more skills to our repertoires, including investment knowledge. For these reasons, I also bring on athletes so that we can learn how they became confident in the investment world and learn the tips that got them there. We go deep into questions about many phases of the investment process, with the goal of helping you go from practice to game time confidently. This is the How Do You Know podcast. Today, we are learning from Mark, who was a former NFL player with the New Orleans Saints and my hometown, Houston Texans. So I think it's no coincidence that you are wearing the Texans polo today. So shout out and appreciation for that. But Mark has evolved into the world of entrepreneurship and investment, where he leads Eighth Parallel, a tech company pioneering AI solutions. So thank you for being here. When we first spoke, I was enamored by your transition out of the NFL and where life took you afterwards, and would love if you could just share it with anyone listening today.
I appreciate it, and I think I'm honored to be on here, and actually I wore it for you,
Yeah,
so that's what.
I like
So
it.
yeah. So a lot of people ask me questions about the process, and like especially I like speaking to young fellas, guys who are just transitioning out of the league. And someone asked me the other day, and I had some tips, I had some quotes. Every situation is unique and different, but at the end of the day, certain principles like being patient with yourself. A lot of guys they get out of the NFL and they want to rush into success into another lane. I'm like, dude, that didn't happen for you in ball, right? It took me 20 years to get to the league. So you just have to be patient with yourself. Um, develop your skills. That means starting at the bottom, getting an entry level job, and that's exactly what I did. I mean, Bella, just finding your lane, that's a process in itself,
Yeah.
right? So, where you want me to start?
No, I'm glad that you emphasized the patience portion of it, because you're absolutely right. It takes time to build, and it shouldn't be an impatient process, and you shouldn't get down on yourself or become negative about the situation. It's just, okay, I know I can do this, and applying my discipline, my hard work, my ethic from playing to now this new chapter. So I'm glad that you made that point first and foremost. But I guess my first question would be, how did you even make the decision to retire?
All right, so that's a great question. So for most NFL players, you really don't make that decision. They make it
Mm,
for you. So like they kick you out. I mean, it's a very competitive league
well,
and industry, and I think that's what makes it great for the fans because in certain other leagues, like, I'm not going to, call out NBA, but they have guaranteed contracts. NHL, hockey, guaranteed contracts. With
mm,
NFL, they can bring you in today. I've seen it happen. They bring you in today and they cut you tomorrow, right? So every single moment as an NFL player, when you watch an NFL game, everybody's going 100%.
yeah.
Every practice, everybody's going 100% because we don't have guaranteed contracts for the most part. So with me, it was like, I'll tell a story. Rick Smith, who was the general manager, he's actually from where I'm from. So we had a good relationship. I was an undrafted guy, brought me in. And I remember my second year with the Texans. So I finished my career with the Saints, but my second year with the Texans, I felt like I'm going to make this team. Like I felt comfortable. I knew the players, I knew the coaches. I knew Houston now. So I'm like, man, and I was playing really well. And when he released me, so after the last game, I'm expecting to make the team, and they say, "Hey, Mark, after training camp, the general man Rick wants to see you." So I'm like, "Okay, I wonder what Rick's going to talk about because there's no way he's going to cut me." And when he said, "Hey, Mark, we're going to let you go," and I'm like, Rick, what do you mean? This is the best I've been
Yeah.
playing. I feel great. You know, the last preseason game, I've played, you know, I'm thinking I'm going to make the team. My teammates were already, they're like, all right, Parse, that's what you used to call me, Bella.
Yeah.
Parse is going to be the starting nickel, and we got this and this. And then when he said that to me, my heart just sunk. And I'm like,
Yeah. It's like a
why? I'm like,
nosebleed.
yeah, I'm like, there's no way you can say these guys are better than me, right? I know I at least made the last cornerback spot. And he said, you know what? He said, Mark, we're looking for a taller guy. We're looking for a more athletic guy. And I just, it felt like somebody just shot 3 arrows right into my heart when he said that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it really upset me.
Just a little.
Yeah, you know, you've done this for 20 years and you're like, man, I thought I was doing well, but not well enough. And they were looking for somebody else. So it just, to answer your question, most guys don't don't leave the league happily.
Yeah.
It's kind of like you get kicked out and you're like, now you're like, what do I do? And I will tell you
Right.
this. Okay, I played 3 years. I know guys who won multiple Super Bowls, played 10 years. That's like a career that
Yeah.
anybody would ask for, right?
Right.
Most of the guys I've talked to are bitter in that transition, even if they
Mm.
had a wildly successful careers, because it's like, man, I wanted to do this, and then when you, so it's very difficult for a lot of guys,
Yep.
you
I
know.
didn't realize that it wasn't guaranteed contracts like the other, like you were saying, like the NBA or the NHL. So that certainly brings a whole other element to it. That's very difficult to deal with on a day-to-day basis. And I'm sure all you're trying to do is stay on the field. But knowing what you know, did you ever think about life after football while you were playing, since it is so cutthroat?
Yes. So my thing, I come from a solid background, upper middle class, Richmond, Virginia. So my dad had one of the largest churches in this area.
Mm.
Well, you know, we did well growing up. And my brother come from an entrepreneurial background. So my brother owned a behavioral health company, which is, you know, mental health for adults. And
Oh, that's
what
great.
I used to say is in college, I always had a, you know, people always say you need a backup plan, right? So my thing was, I would say, well, my brother always, he was like, man, when you're done playing, Mark, you come work with me. I'll teach you this business, this industry, and you'll own it with me. I'm gonna give it to you because my brother's older than me. I'm 39, he's 53. So I'm like, okay. So I just told everybody, they're like, what's your plan B? Well, I'm gonna go work for my brother. That's what I used to say. I'm gonna go work for my brother and take over his business when he's done. So when I got released and I was done completely with football, I'm like, okay, I moved back home to Richmond and he gave me a job. On the first day, I was like, I remember there was a gentleman who was coming off the streets, and one of the nurses that are like, all right, Mark, we need you to go ahead and clean up Mr. Johnson. And I'm like, wait a minute, this really isn't for me.
Oh God.
And some people, and trust me, and I have a lot of family members who are nurses who work in healthcare, and I'm like, oh, this isn't my lane. I mean, God bless Mr. Johnson, but this just isn't my lane. So now I'm like, I've been
Yeah.
telling people I'm gonna work for my brother in this industry in the behavioral health. This is not my personality. So now I'm like, crap, what am I gonna do? You know?
Mm.
Now what I did do, Bella, was my dad, he was like, well, as you're figuring it out, get a sales job so you can learn how to sell, learn how to talk to people, learn, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and so you can get money in your pocket. So my sister was an executive for Verizon Wireless, and she was like, well, you should work here because you can get it hourly and then make a commission and develop your skills. So that's what I did.
Oh,
You know,
nice.
I got the mobile phone game. So it was incredible because, and I excelled in the small business, like selling to small businesses because I was so freaking interested in their industry and their journey.
Yes. Two highlights that I want to take away from that are, yes, I have heard time and time again that no matter what industry in, you're selling. I can't tell you how many times I've been to a conference or a speaker and he asks, how many of you are on the sales team? And maybe one or two people hold their hand and he's like, the entire room needs to be raising their hand up because you guys are all selling, whether it's yourself, whether it's a different division, whether it's this or that. So I think that's a very good point to make. And then in terms of pivoting, I think that's also going back to what we started the conversation with in this patience game, right? Of course, in this day and age, we want everything to be fast, instantaneous gratification. But sometimes it's okay to go forward and then say, actually, I need to take this path instead of the path that I thought was going to be the one that I had. So I'm sure you would have some advice for people in that respect too. But mine would be just to say, if you have an idea, try to talk to as many people in that industry as possible to see if it really is something that's for you, or maybe you can shadow someone and things like that. But that's those were my biggest takeaways from that story.
Absolutely. Just being patient with yourself. Like success is a journey. I have a couple friends and they're trying to get somewhere. I'm like, dude, there's nowhere to go. Be present right now in the moment. Understand, like, set your intention, set your vision, set your goal, and now just be thankful right now. Don't think about the past, don't think about the future. Like, what is my best move today?
Right.
And I wish I could go back to my, 10 years ago. And I say I wish, but if I could go back and talk to my younger self, that's what I would say. Because
Mm.
I'm goal oriented. That's how I made it to
Mhm.
the NFL and to play D1 football. But it's like, dude, relax. And be patient with yourself and learn as much as you can today and go through it and have fun, enjoy yourself.
Yeah.
So I could write a book on this, but I learned about like proximity to people who are doing their thing in the
Mm.
different lanes, right? So one of my buddies, I'm like, man, this is a cool job, but I want something more. I'm not really a 9 to 5 guy,
Sure.
but I don't really know. I don't know anything. All I know is
I know.
football. So my buddies were living in Miami and they were working at a condominium, one of the wealthiest condominiums on the East Coast. They're like, dude, move down here with us. We live on South Beach. It's paradise, but I'm sure you will meet somebody,
Yeah.
right? So I'm like, let's do it. So I just literally picked up and just moved down to they helped me get a job with them. And my whole goal was I'm like, maybe I can put myself in position to get lucky to meet someone who's older and successful, like find a mentor. I'm like, I gotta find a mentor.
Yep.
So that's what I did. I moved down there to South Beach, got a job with them, and like I remember you had to have like a $50 million net worth to even live at this place.
Wow.
Pat Riley, I think was Pat Riley the GM? I think he was the GM of the Miami Heat at the time. He had the penthouse suite. So like I'm around those type of people. There's
Wow.
different successful business owners and wealthy individuals. And the funny thing, Bella, was I'm like every day, okay, maybe I can get lucky and start a conversation because you technically weren't allowed to just have random conversation with people who live there. But
Oh.
but I was willing to take a risk. So I remember there was this one guy who always gave me eye contact, and his name was John Gunsey. So John Gunsey, he was a billion. So let me just tell you that before knew that he was a billionaire. I said, Mr. Gunsey, hey, Mr. Gunsey. I said, can I ask you a question? Like he went to go get his mail, and I happened to be next to him. I said, what do you do? And he said, hey, oh, Mark. He said, I'm in private equity. I've never heard of private equity. I don't know anything about anything really. And
Mm.
I'm like, private equity, okay. He said, yeah, I own a company. He told me his website. He said, check out my website. We'll talk about it tomorrow. So then I looked it up and I said, private equity. Oh, I see what he's doing. He's buying these companies in this particular lane. So then the next day I said, Mr. Gunsey, I checked out your website. I said, private equity, yeah. So he was like, yeah. He said, and then he just started giving me wisdom. He just started giving me information.
Mm.
And everything he would tell me to do, I would just go home I was pulling like 12, 16-hour shifts at this place too, right? So I was tired.
Yeah.
But when I would go home, I would just start reading up on, looking at YouTube, everything he told me. And then he would just give me all this information. And that's when I learned about investments. And I was like, okay, when I get some money, I'm gonna figure out how to get some money. Like, because I didn't make a lot of money in the NFL, but I want to
Okay.
possibly get into the lane of what he's doing. So that
Yep.
just started to open my world and become aware of a particular industry and how these guys think. One thing he did tell me, Bella, he was like, when he was younger, he was focused on trying to compete with other people. He wanted to show how
Mm.
smart he was. Like, I'm competitive. He said, when as I got older, I learned to find, I guess you could call it a blue ocean, uh, where it was less competitive, right? And where he could dominate.
Mm.
And he said, I started to make more money.
Hmm.
So I'm like, okay. So yeah, so just information and wisdom. And that was my first mentor, that I was able to meet.
And it was like you were saying, success is a journey. And in order
Hmm.
to start the journey, you just have to take a first step. you have no idea what to do, where you're going to go, but I think that that is the journey. That's what you're going to learn along the way. But first you have to take that step, and then from there you'll have another one and another one and another one. So it sounds like maybe aside from taking that first leap of faith into whatever you think could be, is the next step after that finding a mentor, in your opinion? Or what advice would you give someone who just doesn't even know where to start or begin, or how to tackle what to do?
Well, everybody has a different risk tolerance or appetite for
Yeah.
risk. As I look back at it, I'm freaking nuts. So like, think about, I just pick up and move and go somewhere.
Yeah.
I I do understand it more now. It's like, guys say they want to play football, where like, I want to be a football player. I want to play in the NFL or get a D1 scholarship. Well, if you're living in New Mexico, that's really hard because it's not a football state, right?
Hmm.
So you can't even dag near find a really good trainer in that area
Yeah.
because, so maybe it means picking up and moving to Georgia, moving to
Yeah.
Florida, moving to Texas, right? And I was just on a call the other night because I still I mentor young fellas and their parents who are playing ball or whatever. And he did that. He was living in
Mm,
Colorado and they were like, dude, we need to move to Alabama because of XYZ. It's a football area, it's the South, it's SEC
sure.
country. So it's that sometimes that's what it takes, and that's risky. That's
Right.
uncomfortable. But guess what? Just do it.
Yep.
And you'll get around and you'll start, the universe starts to work in your favor. Your awareness is heightened.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, next thing you know, you're a baller, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or you meet somebody. So my advice is just do it and go through what it takes to get where you want to be.
Because you can always go back or move back. It's nothing that's permanent necessarily. There's solutions to everything. But to your point, it does feel uncomfortable. I feel like humans like comfort. But to your point, I think that if you think about the greatest and most successful people, it took sacrifice and it took them doing something that was uncomfortable. So just having that as a piece of motivation to really know that if you do want that, it's going to take a little bit more than what you are willing to give up at the onset.
Yeah, and another thing is what I'm learning is how you view like your lens perception creates your reality. That's
Yeah.
really important to me. So it's like, I'll give you an example. So when I was playing at Ohio University, we got the opportunity to play the Ohio State, right? And this is in front of 100,000 people, and we want to beat them. We couldn't stand Ohio State because Ohio State, like people at our school, which is about an hour away, we'll be at our games and people are wearing Ohio State
Oh
jerseys
my
to our
gosh.
game. I'm like, dude, you go to OU. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Right. So we're just, we're the little guy. We're like, we want to punch the big guy in the mouth, right? And take over. Well, we finally get to play them my senior year. I'm playing lights out. I made a name for myself because I locked down their star receiver and we're winning. We're winning in the fourth quarter. And I muffed the punt. We're beating Ohio State. We're in the fourth quarter, and I dropped the punt return. I'm the punt returner because I saw an opening over here, and I'm like, dude, I'm about to score against Ohio State. And I took my eye off the ball. It goes through my arms. I
No.
fall down, and the ball almost rolls out of bounds, and it stops. And then they jump on it. Then 100,000 people roar.
Wow.
That created momentum to where they score. We get the ball back. We throw an interception, and then boom, they ended up beating us. And
Uh
I remember being so heartbroken over that. And then you go on the message boards back then. They're like, "This guy Parson lost us the game. He's the worst of history in Ohio." I'm like, "Oh my god!" To the point where I'm talking like 5 years later, um, it still affects me because the way I look at that was a failure. It was a
yep.
loss, and people would bring it up, and I would get emotionally upset. Well, recently, I just decided to practice gratitude, bless my past, and
Mhm.
see everything as a win.
Yep.
And recently, one of my guys, he was just joking around. He's like, "Yeah, my Parson lost us that game." I was like, "Yeah, did you know that was a pretty cool experience, man? I'm in front of 100,000 people, and I muffed the punt, and now I'm telling. And guess what? I tell that story in business.
Mm,
So people, I'm talking like we shooting the breeze with because I'm business development for our company. And they just were like, dude, you're lucky to even be in the game.
yeah.
But how I see that is now positively impacting me. So all the story, like, my next thing is when I went to Atlanta, me and my buddy tried to start a business because I was like, okay, let me get some money, let me start a business, and then I could be like Mr. Gunsey. Well, we failed miserably in Atlanta.
Mm,
We failed miserably. But now I'm looking at it, I'm like, nah, we learned a lot right there.
yep,
I learned what,
exactly.
so everything is a win, Bella. And
Yeah,
that's, if you see it that way, you're going to just go. You're just going to do it. You get smacked in the face, like, oh, okay, I learned what not to do,
yeah.
right? And it's going to help you in your goals and your vision in your future business. So,
This is a concept that I believe strongly and full-heartedly in. You have two choices, two paths when something like that happens. You can take the low road, feel sorry for yourself, get into that negative spiral, or you can, like you said, see the good in it, have like that positive twist to it, like find the good in something because that's going to continue to be the energy that you attract. And so there's so many things out there that says your subconscious has all these thoughts, we have negativity bias, but if you're constantly bringing up the positive at the forefront of your head, then that's what's going to be in your path moving forward.
right. And it all helps me today.
Yep,
Because remember,
exactly.
now is the only time that exists, right? So everything I've gone through and the wins, losses, or whatever you see, man, it all is all benefiting to me today. And I'll fast forward to we moved back home, with my tail tucked between my legs, like, Dad, we failed at that business in Atlanta because we went from Miami to Atlanta, and
Okay.
and I built a lot of cool relationships, but then came back to Richmond because I have some contacts here. Now, here's where the luck. I changed my mind because I was still too bitter towards football. So I wouldn't even tell people I played in the NFL. You know, I wouldn't even tell people, man. I was like, man, because people were like, why don't you just go back to the NFL, Mark?
Yeah.
I'm like, it doesn't work that way. Like, I can't just go back to the NFL. They have to pick you. So people don't understand how this works. But I'm like, man, I'm more than a football player and I'm gonna prove it to you. But then I started to change my attitude. I'm like, man, I had a good time, and I'm grateful for what the NFL provided me. I'm so thankful. Soon as I started to change that mindset, my life started to begin to change, right?
Yeah. And I know that you found the mentor in Miami, but
Hmm.
what is a first step you'd recommend for someone who's wanting to learn more about investing?
Oh man. So what I did was I found, so this is when I met Rashawn Williams later. So I would find someone, even though Mr. Gunsey didn't teach me about investing, he just opened my awareness towards it. But then
Yep.
that's when I found Rashawn Williams. Rashawn Williams is a minority owner of the Atlanta Falcons now.
Wow.
It's a black guy in investment. He worked on Wall Street, and now he's raising $250 million because he's about. I think they have a sports ownership fund that he's
Oh,
raising
awesome.
for. But man, this guy opened his home to us. He gave us free game, free knowledge, other professional athletes on what venture capital was, what private equity is, and he put it
Okay.
in our language too. I mean, he's a professor at Morehouse now as well, but he really taught me the game. So I just started taking his courses
Okay.
and learning. So that it's education, you
Right.
know
Right.
go to conferences. I mean, we have the internet, right? You go online, you can look up different people who are reputable in this lane, and you just become a student of the game, just
Right.
like anything else,
Exactly.
right? The
Yeah.
same thing, the same approach in football, right? Just become a student of the game and then start to take action. And
Exactly.
understand this. I would tell young fellas, I'm not a financial advisor at all, but it's just like what happens to a lot of athletes, we're so used to the roar of the crowd, the stadium.
Yeah.
So when that's over, you're like, you immediately want to get to success. And if you have some money, a lot of guys start to invest immediately. Like, and I'm like, dude, no, you need to start at the very bottom. Learn the industry. Like, how are you going to
Mm.
invest in something you don't fully understand, right?
Yeah, that's a good point.
So so it's just more so just being patient. And that's what Rashawn taught us. You need to know, you need to learn what due diligence is,
Yep.
right? Technical due diligence, financial due diligence. And like I said, I don't like telling me personally, I wouldn't invest the money that I made in football. You don't want to invest that. That's like money that you sacrifice your body with. So I just tell people I wouldn't invest that. I would earn money, start a business, go through the lumps, get beat up a little bit in the business world so you can learn through experience, get around a mentor so you can learn from their experiences. And then once you have that disposable, that money, then you can start investing and you will lose.
Mhm.
You will lose.
Yeah.
But that's how you become great.
So based on your experience, it sounds like maybe you're not on the proponent side of investing as early as you can. Or how, if you were to tell your kids when they should start investing, what would you tell them?
Well, yeah, I mean, I would start small. Like my biggest thing is don't don't try to get rich off of, like so you want to be in the game. So you would start small. Start with, for instance, buying a little bit of Bitcoin, right?
Yeah.
And what does that mean? $5 a week. So when you're in the game, it's different than you can kind of it's like when you're investing, it almost forces you small amounts at the beginning. It forces you to pay attention,
Right.
right? It forces you to kind of deal with your emotions and understand your risk tolerance. So my biggest thing is you definitely want to be in the game, but when it comes to like athletes, why are you investing? Are you investing because you're trying to get outside validation,
Hmm.
or you really want to understand what you're doing? So that's my biggest thing. It's a little different when it
Yeah.
comes to athletes. Don't try to
Right.
invest to try to be the man in this lane because it's just not going to work out that way. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
It's a very important distinction.
Right. And it may take you 10 years. It's going to take you some losses and stuff, but do you love this lane? Is this what you love to do? Would you do this for free or would you do it with $1 billion in your pocket? If the answer
Right.
is yes, then you're going to be fine.
Hi, I want to interrupt for a quick second because I am a big believer in emulating off of who you want to be. And I've gone through Christopher's program at Wealth Ops where he truly gives you the education you need to help you manage wealth like a microfamily office. I encourage you to take a second to read his article or visit his website at wealthops.io that will be linked as well. Okay, thanks. Back to it.
And you come from an interesting background because your dad was a businessman, your brother had his business. Sounds like your sister was very active at Verizon. So when you were younger, did your family talk about money or discuss it at all?
Yeah, my dad he's always talked about business. And we talking about losses. My dad took a huge loss, the real estate crisis, right? So I remember he owned like $5 million of commercial real estate. He
Oh,
owned a
wow.
shopping center, right? And when that crashed, the tenants couldn't pay their rent.
Yeah.
So he had to fire sell that. So I just going through that situation and learning what he went through and then some other stuff is like, okay. So that helped me, like just
Yeah.
paying attention, right? Just paying attention. Okay. I wonder if and we talked about it. We reflected. That's the cool thing about sports.
Yep.
We learn, let's reflect, let's watch the film. Okay, what are we doing correctly? What did we do right? What can we
Right.
do in the next game? And then, okay, short memory, let it go, learn from it. Now let's move on. You
Yep.
know,
Mind
so
of a
it's
goldfish.
right. And even my brother's business, my brother does very well for himself. But then there's some mistakes that he made, right? And we
Yeah.
like, okay, man, what would you have done differently? So just being around people who are in the game and
Exactly.
um and then going for it yourself, you know.
Yep. Yeah, or even joining a community or just being able to be in front of all these sorts of scenarios helps you become a better investor as well or entrepreneur. So either if you can't find a mentor, join a community, but just keep in mind who you're surrounding yourself with on a daily basis and ask yourself if they're helping you get to where you want to be or what purpose are they serving because you are the top 5 people that you surround yourself with.
Okay, so let me give you an example of that. This is where my life really changed. Exactly what
Mm.
you just said, okay? So, rewinding, when I came back after Atlanta, I was in Richmond, just working. I had a 9 to 5. And I know I was just like, dang, man, I'm not happy, man, because, I took a loss and I'm dealing with this. So, one of my buddies, being at the right place at the right time, and I,
Mm.
I believe that I did set my intentions, so my awareness was heightened when it comes to this. I was like, man, I got to find somebody who can help me figure out what I want to do. My buddy asked me to come to, like downtown Richmond, a bar, restaurant. He was coming into town. He just wanted to sit down and kick it with me. So I was like, I really didn't feel like it. I really didn't really having a great day, but I was like, all right, man, let's go. So we're hanging out in this restaurant, me and him, and this older white guy. He had a suit on, white hair. He randomly comes up to our table and says, "Can I join your conversation?"
Huh.
So I was, we're nice guys, so we're like, this is odd, but yeah, man, pull up a seat. So this guy was just talking and he was so knowledgeable of so much. Like I mean, his journey, I really, and Bella, we've talked before. I love hearing people's story and journey. That
Right.
like really, I do business just to make friends, to be real. So he's talking and he's like 30 minutes in. He was like, "Oh yeah, I just bought the Colonial Downs racetrack. I just bought the Colonial Downs racetrack." And I'm like, "Get out of here, man. You didn't buy that." And he was like, "Yeah." So we looked up on the Richmond Times Dispatch. I Googled it right in front of him, and it said Larry Lucas of Revolutionary Racing purchases Colonial Downs for $20 million. So I'm like, "Oh, you're like, oh
Wow.
crap. Like this dude has some money and he's doing some big things." And so we should start talking more. And he was like, "Hey man, you want to get in the gaming industry?" I don't know anything about gaming. I don't know anything. I'm looking for a mentor and I'm looking for a lane that I could be successful in. And I'm like, dude, yeah, man. So he's like, all right, meet me at this particular hotel tomorrow at 4. And I'm like, hey, man, you're not just drunk, right? I know we had a couple drinks. No, honestly, man, like, he was like, dude, meet me there tomorrow. Okay. Man, he stuck to his word. I met with
That's
him and his
awesome.
business partner at this nice hotel downtown Richmond. It's called the Jefferson Hotel. And he was like, "Look, there's no book." So me, I'm like, what any books should I read? He's like,
Yeah.
"There's no book that can prepare you for this industry. You just gotta live it." I said, "Okay." Man, this guy got me. I was the fifth person hired at this company, and at that time they put me in their management program. Okay, so he put me in the management program and I learned like they had me doing random stuff like procurement, community engagement, marketing. I was my hand in everything, and then
Yeah.
randomly he would pick me up. So we ramped up that company to over 1,000 employees. I was even in the process of like watching them do the financing because it cost about $300 million. So I'm around like billionaire gaming, private equity guys, gaming. And then what they would do is, Bella, they would pick me up. This is like, I know I gave value, but they would pick me up, take me, because I didn't know anything about politics and how that plays a role,
Mm,
state governments. I didn't even know who the governor of Virginia was. Like, I was clueless.
right.
And we would have to go to different like regions and city and speak to city councils and explain why we would be a good fit to open up our location in their place. So I'm like, I'm learning so much. And he would say, all right, Mark, you know why we have to meet this mayor? Because the mayor knows everybody and he's gonna, if we can get buy-in from him, he can. Oh, so I'm like just soaking it all up, man.
Right.
And I just learned so much. And from that experience, so I worked for him for about 3 years, and then I started my own gaming company.
Wow.
And from the information, and that's when financially my life changed.
Mm,
And that's when I took that course. I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna learn about investing now, right? So that's
right.
when I met Rashawn Williams through one of my. He works for the Commanders now. His name is Tim Hightower. He's like, Mark, you need to join this group, man. This guy's giving us a lot of knowledge and trustworthy. So boom, we started, and I partnered with another guy by the name of Douglas Kraft. We started Kraft Partners International, and we started investing in late stage pre-IPO companies and different
Mm,
startups. And it's been great. We started Eighth Parallel not too long with one of my buddies. We started Eighth Parallel not too long after that, where now again we're just through different relationships and meeting people. So it's just my motto, and I learned this from Larry Lucas. It's all about people,
yep.
you know.
That's such a
So.
good story of exactly what we were talking about. It's just putting yourself out there, taking the first step. You kind of are going in blind, but it's funny how life just will take you to the right places if you're open to it, if you have that positive mindset, and if you just continue to attract that energy and look out for it.
Absolutely. And it's been a pretty cool ride now because I'm just learning so much. I'll even tell you this. I'm a big believer in metaphysics. So
Mm,
just like going within, and then once you get yourself in the right state, you tend to attract uh similar things in life. Like
exactly.
basically frequency and and all that good stuff. And And that's what's happened. I remember when I was talking to my partner, my investment partner, Doug Kraft, he makes about 40, I shouldn't put out his money, business out there, but he makes a lot of money. He's a former NFL guy, CFL guy. He's older than me, which I tend to like hanging out with. He makes a lot of his money on his main business in government contracting. I was like, dude, man, that'd be really cool. I just was walking with that. I was like, man, that'd be really cool if I could work for, like do some work with the U.S. military, like the DoD. And I just put that thought out there. And now fast forward 2.5 years later, I'm doing that with Eighth Parallel.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, like my, I call it luck, but it's just like putting yourself in the right position, getting around the right people, and things tend to align. I like the word
Yeah,
alignment. You know what I
exactly.
mean?
Luck is when preparation meets opportunity. So makes sense to me. I'm a big believer in the metaphysics too. So I think we've talked a lot about that today alone.
Mhm.
But in terms of thinking about your personal investment portfolio, it sounds like you've invested in some pre-IPO. Now you have this AI company. Is all of your investments in these companies, or do you have take a diversified approach as well?
So when it comes to the investment side, like Craft Partners, our goal, so we were looking at eventually raising. So this is all of the investments that we have invested, all our own money.
Hmm.
So it goes back to like just starting with what you have and learning and being impatient. So we wanted to start our own venture capital company. Before we invest other people's money, we said, all right, well, let's start with investing our money first so we can get,
Hmm.
if you're gonna lose your own money before you start to lose.
Sure.
So that's what we've done. And we've taken, and I'm plugging Rashawn Williams right here. Remember when I told you how he explained it to us? So
Yep.
you have early stage companies, growth stage companies, late stage companies. So a late stage company, Dagner about to be acquired. They're 7 to 10 years in. They're maybe even close to IPO. Growth stage is obviously in the middle, and then early stage is higher risk. It's just startup.
Right.
And the thing is, he explains it just depends on your risk tolerance, right? So he explained it like I really like how he explained it. Like early stage is like a kid in high school. May have some
Hmm.
promise, but he's a high school. You don't know. He could get hurt. He could get in trouble, or
Yeah.
maybe he just doesn't. It's not as good. So
Right.
that's like finding LeBron James. Your goal is to find LeBron James in high school, right? Maybe even middle school. Growth stage is like okay, he's in college. Maybe he's at a Ohio State or he's at Texas and he's doing well. He has some promise. Late stages, he's about to get drafted, right?
Hmm.
So you get where you attach yourself to the particular player, you have a way bigger reward if you get with LeBron James in high school and he trusts you, you build that rapport, you build that relationship, right? Whereas if you get with LeBron, or let's just use a guy who's about to get drafted first round in the NFL, and you just meet him in college right before he gets okay, your reward he didn't know you when he was
Right.
early, right? So I was like, oh, okay. So the way he put it that way, I'm like, all right, so the risk and reward, right?
Exactly.
And he has a cool model of how he from an allocation standpoint. So we decided Craft Partners to focus on the late stage already.
Hmm.
So he gives access again, all goes back to relationship. We have access, exclusive access to these individuals, these investment opportunities. It's more like a layup.
Yep.
They're already successful, like Instacart. That was one of the successful deals that we got into before they went public.
Right.
So I wanted to go through that process of how it looks and how you invest and how the waiting process. And then when they go public, how does that even work?
Yep.
So being patient, investing our own money, going through the bumps, the bruises, and the joys and the smiles, then start our own, and grow our company that way.
And right now, the economy is a little bit uncertain. There's a lot of volatility going on. How do you guys account for the macroeconomic environment when you're making these investment decisions?
No, that's a great question. I mean, because we were shaken up. Like the IPO market when we got involved, it tanked,
Mm.
and we lost a couple, and we had to wait. Like for instance, the late stage companies, when it comes to the exit, you're expecting like 1 to 3 years. Man, there's investments that we're holding on to. So you kind of just have to be very fluid. You and what I learned mostly was just about Remember I told you like I'm nuts, so like I take big risk. Well, that hurt me over the last few years because a lot of my game, I sold my gaming company for $1 million, and I got into investments with my buddy.
Yeah.
But I was like, shoot, you know what? I had to assess and reflect. Why did I invest in these companies? Did I try to do
Mhm.
it for outside validation so I could be like, hey, look at me, instead of, you know what? Let's be calm. Let's wait for the storm to end. So I learned a lot about who I am from an investment standpoint and how the market changes suddenly. Well, from an allocation standpoint, you have to know yourself. Why are you doing
Exactly.
this? Why are
Yeah.
you doing it? Are you doing it for the crowd? They're like, "Oh, look at Mark. He's an investor and he's doing this," because guess what? When your kids and your wife have to look at you in the face and be like, "Hey, we had all," So I learned so much, and it's helping me with the decision making that I have right now.
Yeah,
You know,
especially in making a plan for yourself too. I think obviously step one is knowing who you are. And then after that, I think that the next step would probably be, okay, this is where I want to be in 5, 10 years, whatever it is, and how, like let me work backwards from there to then get to the next level.
absolutely. And I didn't get to tell you this. So like talking about enjoying what you do, what I learned was when it comes to investing, like let's just say late stage, and how we're doing it, passive investing, that's boring to me. Now, of course, you want your money to work for you, but me personally, I like the startup environment. Like, I like being part of the game. Like, it's one thing for me to invest in Instacart. Well, we were in Rashawn. We always talked about being the least amount of money and the last money in. Talking about risk mitigation, right? Especially if you're dealing with
Hmm.
athletes, you want to have a layup. You want to have safe bets when you're sharing investment information, right? But me personally, and like my personality, I like being in the startup process. I like learning of this industry and and building the model, the business model, and all that stuff. So that's why Eighth Parallel, because that's what I like to do. Like I like to be a part of this process.
And it's funny because I feel like I'm like, bring me all the passive investments because I have so much going on in my day that I don't want to have to be in the nitty gritty, having to. I feel like if you're in that startup life, you're just putting fires out all day, solving problems all day. And I'm like, I don't have capacity to do that at all. So it just, like you said, know yourself, know where you are in this point in your life, and make decisions from there.
Exactly. You're exactly right.
All right, I just want to end with a quick 3 question fire round. First one would be, what is your favorite piece of media to stay up to date on the news?
Instagram.
Really? Do you have
Yeah.
certain accounts you follow?
Well, I actually have a page when it comes to
Oh,
sports. It's called the DB Network,
okay.
and we're starting one of the QB networks. So we started this just giving education out to players in our lane, the defensive backs. We're actually now really becoming a strong voice when it comes to the NFL and college football. So
Ah,
we
how
have
cool.
coaches reaching out to us, universities reaching out to us, players, parents. So I kind of stay in my lane when it comes to that and sports and everything
Yeah,
because I'm not involved in sports, but I am at the same time. So it's a lot
right.
of fun.
Right. Yeah, that's very cool. So is that what we type in to find it?
The DB Network. Yep.
Okay, perfect. Second question, what is your favorite restaurant?
My favorite restaurant. I really don't even go out like that.
Your
What
wife's
is my
cooking?
favorite? Yeah. What is my favorite restaurant? That's it, man. Fire round too.
Or the first one that comes in your head?
Ella, all these questions, these complex questions, and then this is the most simple one. Because I'll go with Sedona Tap House. So
Okay,
there's a nice restaurant. It's called Westchester here around where I live. It's the cool, So yeah, Sedona Tap House. I like it.
perfect. Last question, if you were given $1 million, how would you invest it? And it can't be your own company.
Okay. This aligns with everything I've said today. Me, I would invest it in relationship building.
Mm,
So, however, I don't have a particular way I would allocate it, but let's just say this. I would use it to build my network. Um, so what that could mean traveling to go to Dubai to meet the CEO of this place or traveling. That's what I would
Mm,
do it in networking. And I say network, maybe I'll say relationship building. I tell guys, I love that question. I tell guys I still mentor guys who are currently in the NFL.
sure.
When you go to a city, before you go to the city, like one of my buddies, one of my young fellas, he played for the New York Jets. Dude, I said, invest in creating some NFL cards, right? And make it like your business card.
Mm,
And then research all of the top corporations and business, the CEOs and the C-suite people. Send them your card. Say, hey, my name is Mark Parson. I'm with the Jets now. I just want to reach out to you, research them a little bit and maybe buy a ticket for them to come to a game or get it, in the business suite. So that's what I would say. So, because those relationships will change your world.
right.
Those relationships will get you multiple millions of dollars. That's what I've learned. So I would invest in relationship building.
Yep. Yeah, I couldn't agree more for all of the reasons that we just talked about. So, Mark, thank you again for your time today. I hope people do see the importance of relationship building, of working on themselves, knowing what they want, and then also the metaphysics and just being sure to take that first step. It doesn't have to be the right one, but it's better than just staying at the start line, or else you'll never ever get to the finish line. So, until next time,
Thanks for
adios.
having me, Bella.
If you are ever interested in a recap with the main points discussed throughout the podcast episode, check out the Q&A series because we dig deeper into the concepts discussed, and you can follow along on YouTube if that's preferred. If you find any value in the show and want to support it, it would be awesome if you texted someone right now about it. You can say you have a podcast recommendation that you think they should listen to and then ask them to get back to you with their thoughts. Anything helps, and I really rely on the amazing investors like you to spread the word. Thank you so much for listening, and please feel free to reach out at any time.